having a great day. I wanted to revisit the topic of squats because it is one of the most basic movement patterns that we have. However, it is an exercise that does take some practice, and there are modifications that you can incorporate to make your squatting form a little bit more efficient and better for your body. So when we talk about squatting, the basics of it really, and there's a lot to get into, so we're just going to scrape the surface here. But you want to start with your feet about hip width apart, maybe a little bit wider. Your toes are generally pointing forward, but they can also turn out at an angle just a little bit if you need them to. Now, when you're doing a body weight squat, one of the simplest ways to practice, you can use your arms to help you leverage your balance as you're getting into this particular motion. Typically, you want your first movement to be your hips going back. So I'm going to show you from the side. Once your feet are set, round your shoulders away from your ears, brace your core, hips go back and down as you come forward, as your hands come forward, and then up, down, keeping that weight in your heels, and up. I'm going to show you from the front as well. Here, I say often sitting back into those heels, sitting back into the squat, but it's not necessarily like sitting back into a chair, because typically you'd have like a 90-degree angle here. An angle that I look for when I'm working with clients and they're squatting, because sometimes we think we have to have a super straight back. And yes, if you're adding weight or you're doing a back squat, you definitely want to have that nice straight back. However, you can have a straight back and have that angle a little bit forward with your chest. So as you come down, the angle of your back should actually match the angle of your shins. So you're parallel there, coming up, down, so you have a slight hinge there almost, pushing through those heels up. There's a lot of debate over knees shouldn't go over toes, they should not go forward. However, every body is different. So depending on the length of your femur, if you're someone who's tall or you have a really long femur, anatomically speaking, your knee is probably going to go over a little bit. However, you don't want to shift all your weight onto your toes. This is typically how a lot of people will squat. So you want to keep that weight balance between your feet. And as you come down, my knees go over my toes a little bit, but I'm in a balanced position through my joints, core is tight, pushing up. Now, speaking of rounding your back, it's okay a little bit if your back, if you are not squatting with weights, like we just mentioned. So if you want to get comfortable in the squatting position, you can come on down as low as you want. Get comfortable being uncomfortable in the squatting position. Now, one of the best ways to train your muscles to do that, a modification would be a wall sit. Now in this, you are going to have that 90-degree angle at your knees like we talked about, but you're learning how to activate the correct muscles. Your back is supported by the wall, and you can focus on building that fitness capacity and that strength capacity within your leg muscles performing this particular exercise. Start with 10 seconds, build up to 30, maybe a minute, whatever it might be. Use your hands to help push yourself up. Another modification is to lift your heels. Sometimes we think our squat form isn't as good as it should be because we blame our knees. And in a lot of cases that can be accurate. Everybody's different, so if you're having pain or injury, it's really important to be evaluated by a professional before you just try to fix something if you're not really sure where there's an imbalance or a weakness. So another way, if you're not having pain, but you feel like you're a little bit limited in your range of motion, is to lift those heels. Okay, so ankles can tend to be just as much of a problem as our knees. In fact, I personally think, totally my own personal opinion, we totally neglect our feet and our ankles. And so sometimes it's the limited range of motion in that joint, which is really the base of the squat movement and just about any daily movement we have. So sitting back with your heels lifted allows you to push through your heel without coming onto your toes. Now you could start a little bit higher. I wouldn't go too much higher really than an inch or two, and then try and find something halfway as you progress and get a little bit better. Another modification, and one of my favorites actually, is a kneeling squat. So as long as you don't have any issues with your knees, you can come on down, knees are in a hip width position. You can cross your arms over your chest here, raise them up behind your ears, and you can perform the same motion squatting down and coming up. So now you're really focusing on that hip movement within the squat exercise here, crossing your hands over your chest, down and up. So there's a couple variations for you to work on your squat. If you can actually watch yourself from the side and check out those angles, that would be a good start. And again, if you are having pain and you need to modify, try something like a wall sit or elevating those heels just a little bit. If you have questions, send me a message. Otherwise, good luck working on that squat.